Oh, yes! It's that time once again! Oh, yeah! PoGokeRo Pirate Broadcaster! Duel of the Narratives! Yeah, let's switch over here. There we go, yay! Hey, what's up, America? Happy Thanksgiving! Yeah, that time again, right? Where families all get together and eat a lot of food and usually avoid certain topics. But I think this year things are a little different, right? Things are a little different. Things aren't quite the same. No, I think this year we got a lot to talk about. And being quiet and polite is what got us into this mess to begin with. What do I mean? Well, let's review. We have been taken over by Russia. And for some people, for a large part, for a significant part of the population, their brains just are with Russia. I don't know if they really understand what that means. If they're just naturally like into fascism, I don't know what that means. But the thing is that they're into it. They're into the Russian narrative. So well, wait a minute, Robert. What is this Russian narrative that you're talking about? What does that even mean? Well, remember, right? There's two stories going on that's being told, and what story you buy into, number one, says a lot about who you are as a person, and number two, determines where you stand in this information war that we're in. Because we're in the midst of a coup. This coup is being staged by Russia via Donald Trump. And to understand it, I mean, you if you've been following along, you pretty much understand it. But let me give you like a rundown of like how Vladimir Putin came to power. So you remember back in the 1989 was the best days of my life. Had the 93 vision. I think it was 89 or 90. It was 89. The Berlin Wall fell, and that was like pretty significant time because that was like the forerunner of the rest of the Soviet Union falling. So what that meant was that the totalitarian regime that was nominally communist, that held on to power, started losing its power, and Russia started losing a lot of the countries they had taken over. They started losing their grip on power. And all these countries revolted from communist regime rule and became independent, like bit by bit, all over the USSR. These countries revolted and became free, not under Russian sway. And then so eventually Russia collapsed into itself, and it transitioned to capitalism, but the problem is to a market economy. But the problem is that Russia had no idea how to do it. And so what happened were a few people gobbled up, like the mafia. The mafia gobbled up almost all of the industry in Russia, like everything. The mafia gobbled up everything in Russia. So it became like a mafia state. So, but the government still had to be run. And so I think the guy was Boris Yeltsin, but I think he did terrible. I don't know why. I don't understand quite that part. But then I don't know, then they moved to this other guy. But really what was going on was that Vladimir Putin was an agent in the KGB. and he was pretty high up there. I mean, there's pictures of him act in disguise next to Ronald Reagan, acting as a photographer, but he's KGB. So he worked himself into a position where he could help the oligarchs, who were the power in Russia, help the oligarchs to like maintain control. And so they put him in a position of power. He became president of Russia. And he maintained power by serving the oligarchs. He would do things to make sure the oligarchs like maintained their power and wealth. But then it got to a point he just quietly kept consolidating power more and more and more. And it got to the point where he became powerful enough that he controlled the state really, really well. So then it was time for Vladimir Putin to take power in Russia. So what he did was he chose one of the oligarchs. I think it was an oil oligarch. And he used the power of the state to take this very, very powerful and wealthy oligarch, and I forget his name, but they took this oligarch and threw him through a kangaroo court, beat the crap out of him, and then like killed him. with the power of the state, he took one of the most richest, most powerful people in Russia and destroyed him with the power of the state. And after that, the oligarchs all came to Putin and said, "What do we have to pay you so that this doesn't happen to us?" So that's when the power flipped. Now, Putin is in control, and the oligarchs pay. He's like the shepherd of the oligarchs, because the oligarchs pay him for protection. Because it's mob rule, right? It's mob rule. KGB mob, whatever. It's illegitimate. It's lawless. The only law is power. So that's opposite of what we're about in the United States. So Vladimir Putin now must take care of his oligarchs. Because if his oligarchs do well, Vladimir Putin does well. So America, the West, imposed all these sanctions on these Russian oligarchs. Because oligarchs don't keep their money in Russia. That's crazy. Russia is a corrupt country. Their money will get stolen. Like, there's no way they would do that. No, they keep their money in the West, where we have the rule of law and nominal protection from corruption. We're supposed to be, we're better than other countries for corruption, or we're supposed to be. The West is better than other countries for corruptions. That's why they invest everything over here, because we're not corrupt. And their money is safe, because there's no corruption, or less corruption. So when it's easy to put sanctions on on these Russian oligarchs, because all their money is over here. So you just flip the switch, and boom, they can't get their money anymore. So they may be technically billionaires. If they can't get their money, like, what they got is what they got, like everyone else. So, like, are you really rich and powerful anymore? I don't know. So that means the money that flows to Putin is lessened, because it's all tied up in the West. So Putin's number one goal is one of the goals is to get the sanctions off of his oligarchs. If he doesn't get the sanctions off his oligarchs, then Putin can't make any money. That's how he gets his money, is from these sanctions. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing to know is that Putin wants to reconstruct the USSR. He wants to recreate the grand, vast empire that rivaled the United States, that rivaled the West. That's what he wants to do. So bit by bit, he's been bullying his neighboring countries. First, it was Georgia, right? Now he's bullying Ukraine to take it over. He's trying to take back the old countries that the USSR had. So, yeah, he's at war with the West, because the West is ideologically opposed to what Russia is. The West is about democracy and rule of law. And Putin and his ilk are all about dictatorship, the rule of power. So the rule of power doesn't care about human rights. The rule of power doesn't care about civil rights. Like, it's Machiavellian. It's terrible. It's awful. So, like, it's the jungle, basically. So we don't want that, right? That's why that's why the United States overthrew the rule of King George to become independent. because we don't want to be ruled by a king or a despot. But if you're on Team Russia, that's what you want. You want rule by a king, because the king is beholden to no law except the law of God. But if God flows through the king, and the king says this, well then, yeah, you don't want a king. Kings are bad. So, so that's Putin. So Putin wants to get these sanctions off his oligarchs. And he's also attacking Ukraine. He wants to control Ukraine. So what does Putin do? How does he do this? Well, he takes the strategy that worked in in Georgia, and he applies it to Ukraine. He floods the airwaves with propaganda. He inserts his agents throughout the country, his soldiers throughout the eastern part of the country, and he puts in a puppet guy, politician, a puppet politician, and tries to get him into a position of power. And it worked. Like, he was able to use his corruption to sway the country of Ukraine over to Russia. That's what he wants, to have it under control of Russia. But then the people revolted, and they kicked out the corrupt prime minister, and that got our president, and that president flew back to Russia, to Moscow. So then Ukraine was trying to but it still had lots of corruption inside of it, right? All these people placed in there that were pro-Russia throughout his government. So it's been in a process of trying to find and get rid of the corrupt people to become closer to the West and become a Western democracy like the rest of us, and believe in rule of law and believe in rule of law and of human rights and individual rights. Because, you know, it's cool to be us. We're cool. So he needs to get, so one way of getting the sanctions off is to, but why were the sanctions put on them? Well, the sanctions were put on them because Obama was all like, yo, dude, you interfered in our election, so I'm going to put the sanctions on you, and then Congress passed them. So Donald Trump would love to take these sanctions off of Russia, but he can't right now because he needs a good reason. And he doesn't have a reason right now. And he tried, but it's not going anywhere. So one way of absolving Russia of the interference is to blame someone else. So Russia is now saying, or Putin is now saying, oh, it wasn't us that did that, it was Ukraine who did it. And then Donald Trump is like, oh, look, it wasn't Ukraine, or it wasn't Russia that hacked us, it was Ukraine. So Donald Trump and on the Kremlin are like saying the same thing. They're echoing the same thing. They're both saying, like, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump both say that Mueller's report was bunk, that there was no good. Both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin say Mueller's report is no good. Who are the people that say Mueller's report is good? Well, Mueller, right? This Marine captain, like, with a Bronze Star. That's who says it's good. Like, Americans, our allies who contributed to this investigation. Australia, the Netherlands, the UK. Like, there's a whole bunch of people who contributed to this. All the U.S. Intelligence agencies all say like the Mueller report's good, that Russia attacked us. So that's the two narratives you have. You have one narrative over here by Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin that says it was Ukraine who attacked the United States and Russia is blameless, so we should take the sanctions off of their oligarchs. And then you have the other side, U.S. officials, U.S. intelligence agencies, the heads of thereof, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. You have all these Western newspapers who have reported stories about this that add to it. You have all these allies of the United States who say that, oh yeah, we helped you do this. Yep, we helped you figure this out. Yep. So that's the two stories, and they're saying Russia attacked the United States to put in their preferred candidate, Donald Trump. That's the two stories. So you're either with Vladimir Putin or you're with the United States. That's the deal. That's the deal. There's no other in between. Now, here's the thing. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump are fascists, right? Fascists believe in rule of power. So the problem with that is that the rule of power has an issue, though, has a problem. It cannot stand truth. Nope, can't handle it. It cannot handle truth. It cannot handle truth. Everything must flow from a position of power. And truth stands regardless of what power says. Therefore, power cannot abide by truth. It cannot stand it. It cannot stand it. So if power does something, and you come out with a sign and says that's wrong, this is what the truth is, and you're holding the truth, the power will attack you. It has to. It has to, because you're in defiance of that power with truth, and truth is powerful. It's truth. Like the truth is an aspect of God. Like, it's powerful. So power cannot abide by a display of truth when truth contradicts power. So power will do whatever it has to in order to take that away. It will ban protesting. It will attack protesters. It will jail them. It will do whatever it takes, but it cannot stand by truth. Whereas in the West, we're ruled by rule of law, and law is a reflection of the morals and ethics that we see. It's our best interpretation of implementing our morals and ideals. Are the very best of us. We've spent millennia concentrating and learning about what is the best, what is the good, what is the best of us, what are the rules that help it so we can all live together in freedom. And we came up with these rules, or we like imagine it, and we try to codify it down into law, and then make that law the thing that we get ruled by our own code, not by power, but by code, the code of our truth. And it's always by truth, because we're reflecting truth in by the rule of law. So the law is not perfect because it's only a reflection of truth, but it's better than rule of power, which has no law at all. It's on the whim of the despot, of the king. So if you're with Vladimir Putin and the Republican Party and with Donald Trump, you're saying that rule of law is meaningless and that power is the only important thing. And if you're a white supremacist, that's what you're also saying. That power is the only important thing. It's not, anything else is ridiculous. It's only power. So, I know it sounds like I'm kind of talking about it too much, like it's overblown. But you have to understand that the United States is gotta be there to stand against fascism. I see a bunch of our allies wavering already. France, under Macron, is starting to waver and fall toward Russia. So I don't know. Is Macron? Is he compromised? He's got to be. Why would he agree to break up NATO and move closer to Russia? Macron's crazy. He's crazy. Just like Donald Trump. That guy's awful. If he's saying to go closer to Trump or to Russia. And Macron, he wrote his thesis, his master's thesis on Machiavelli. So the guy's already into power. He wrote his thesis on it about power. So that says a lot about a person when they write their thesis on power. Because Machiavelli wrote The Prince, and The Prince was basically Machiavelli's attempt to gain favor with the ruling power, so that he didn't get killed. And so he tried to show his worth to the ruler by writing a manual of how to rule, and his work was The Prince. And it was the reason why they call it Machiavellian is because it's cold-blooded, dude. It's cold-blooded. It's cold-blooded. He's like, yeah, it's like pure power. Things like that's where it comes, where it's like he says it's better to be feared than loved, because people choose to love you, but people don't choose to fear you. They feel fear regardless. So like he says some crazy stuff. Machiavelli said, like, if you have an enemy, like, murder them. Don't give them mercy at all. Don't ever show mercy. Like, murder them. You either make people you feed people enough so that they're dependent upon you, so they can't turn on you, or you murder them. It's a show and make them fear you. Because if they don't fear you, then they won't. Then you don't have power over them. But you have to be careful not to do that too much, because fear, if you let fear turn into hate, then it's game over for you, because hate is not self-interested. Hate, like a hateful person will do something that will hurt themselves. They don't care. Hate has taken them over. So as a ruler, like, you can't make people hate you, because then once they hate you, they'll work against their self-interests to get you. Like, this is Machiavelli, and this is who Macron wrote about. Like, man, that's crazy. So I can easily see Macron tilting France over to the fascist side. That's kind of gross. But they've been having issues. Like, the whole country's been having issues. Ooh. Okay, so what does that mean for back over here in America? So we just had a couple weeks of impeachment testimony. Now, if you were already supporting Donald Trump and you watched this impeachment testimony, what happened was you became even more supportive of Donald Trump. You heard the Russian narrative go, yes, I believe only the Russian narrative. I don't believe any Americans. I only believe Putin. So if you're a Donald Trump fan, you only listen to Putin. You don't listen to any Americans, unless the Americans agree with you. But those Americans agree with Putin too, so you're all agreeing with Putin. And if you're already not a fan of Donald Trump and you watch the impeachment hearings, you really want to get rid of Donald Trump now. So everyone really dug in. The Russian sympathizers became more Russian, and the Americans became more American. You have to remember, a lot of these Russian sympathizers, they're racist. They look at Russia as a fellow white country, another white country. So they're like, oh, if Russians are white and we're white, then they're natural allies, right? And they're against the cosmopolitan liberals that want to have diversity. So if you're a Confederate, if you're racist, you're predisposed to this hacking. Because remember, Russia didn't make Americans racist. Americans were already racist. The Russians just exploited what was already there. So remember, America was founded on slavery and genocide. Like, Thanksgiving, let's give thanks to the Indians who saved the ass of the Pilgrims who are starving to death. Like, if it wasn't for the Native Americans, we'd be there wouldn't be a United States. So, but like that history isn't taught to you when you're in, you know, you're taught the myth where, oh yeah, natives and pilgrims are all happy together. Yeah, no, dude, it was almost immediate betrayal. The settlers betrayed the natives, like immediately. So the only redemption, right? Because there's so much like inherent sin in this country based on its coming, like your natural sin, your mortal sin, whatever they call it. I forgot what they call it. The sin that you're born with. America was born by slavery and genocide. So everything that stems out of this country is based on slavery and genocide. The only thing that saves it is that the document has great ideals. That says, well, at that time it said all men, but now we know better that it's all humans. All humans are created equal. And that we're a nation built upon laws and reason and evidence. Not craziness like Donald Trump and the Russians with what they want to promote, which is rule of power. So I'm making a roast, a beef stew. I'm making a beef stew. You know, beef, potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic. Yeah, Worcestershire sauce, whatever. Worcestershire. But I made a mistake. I accidentally put in soy sauce. I thought it was the Worcestershire sauce, and it's soy sauce. So I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I hope it turns out okay. But we'll find out in like, I don't know, like 3-4 more hours. Slow cooking. Yeah. Things are crazy. I read an article that in Wisconsin, people are saying that they've heard these two narratives. You have to remember, it's really expensive to find the truth. It's hard to find out what the truth is. And that once you know the truth, it's really valuable. But it's super easy and free to make bullshit. It's easy to lie. You can just make up stuff out of nowhere and keep doing it all day. Just keep going, right? Because it's empty. There's nothing behind it. You don't need to be rigorous and care about what the truth is. You can say anything. And then so there's one group who's trying to find the truth, which is really hard. And there's the other group that's trying to hide the truth. And the way they hide the truth is they keep throwing out crazy stuff so that you never really know what's going on. That's what they want to do. They want to make you confused. They want to throw so much stuff out there and just hope something sticks against the wall. They don't care. They'll keep throwing stuff out there. So for them, it's cheap. But to find the truth is expensive. It's hard. And for some people, they've given up. They say, you know what? Truth is an aspect of God, and it's too hard to find God. I can't do it. I just give up. I'm just not even going to try anymore. I can't know God. I can't do it. I can't know truth. Can't know God. It's too hard. Sorry. I'm just gonna listen to whatever the power says. Oh no. So you can see who benefits from flooding the airwaves with bullshit. It's the fascists. The fascists want you to give up searching for truth. So the only truth is power. And remember, truth is the enemy of fascists. They can't have you speaking the truth because truth can stand against power. Yeah. See, things are crazy, man. We're in the middle of a war right now, and people don't understand it. They don't get it. Well, no, not that they don't get it. Some are on the other team. Some are on Team Russia. Some are betrayers. They're trying to throw us down. A lot of betrayers out there. Betrayal, treason. That's right. It's not betrayal. It's treason. It's traitors. That's the word. Traitors. A lot of traitors out there. All right. Let's see how long I've been going. Like at least a half hour. That's good enough. All right, America. Stay safe out there. Things are nuts. But I'm with you, right? I see this stuff too. You're not crazy. You're not going crazy. It's actually happening. And yeah, people, there's some bad people out there. So take care. Keep your head up. All right. Peace.